say goodbye to Doran the Siege Tower, since the new Best Defender Commander just got printed, and I decided to build it on a €100 budget. Felothar the Steadfast. Felothar is a 4 mana Abzan card with 0 power and 5 toughness, and he has fantastic abilities for a defender deck. The first ability lets creatures we control assign combat damage with their toughness rather than their power. This really promotes playing high toughness creatures, turning them into real beatsticks. His second ability allows our creatures with defender to attack as though they didn't have defender. This is fantastic. This means we can just play a ton of walls and just be able to actually attack with them. With these two abilities combined, a simple Wall of Blossoms, for example, which is a 2 mana 0/4 wall which can't attack, will actually be able to swing for 4 damage. Not bad for a simple 2-drop, right? The last ability is where things get absolutely crazy. For 3 mana and tapping him, we're allowed to sacrifice another creature. When we do, we draw cards equal to that creature's toughness, and then we discard cards equal to the creature's power. You can see where we're going with this. A simple 0/4 wall can be sacrificed and we will draw 4 cards and we will have to discard 0 cards. Just drawing us 4 cards in the process. The card advantage Felothar will grant us throughout the game by just sacrificing some walls will be absolutely insane. Felothar is in Abzan colors, meaning we have access to great ramp, great removal, ton of Boardwipes, and the best defender creatures that have ever been printed. So how did I build this Felothar budget deck? Obviously, I included a ton of defender and high toughness creatures. After all, this is what Felothar is all about. We play a ton of one-sided Boardwipes, destroying all creatures and leaving our defenders intact. The main strategy of this deck is making our low power walls unblockable using mechanics like Skulk, for example, then just swinging with our 0 power creatures and assigning damage equal to their toughness. This deck is really resilient and also shines in longer games. Since we play a ton of one-sided Boardwipes, later on in the game we can just wipe the board, leave our defenders intact and swing with them. You'll see what I'm talking about. As per usual, I will be going in depth in every single card in the deck and explaining why I chose to include it. The video is divided up in 5 categories: the creatures, the interaction spells, the Boardwipes, the mana rocks, and the lands. Let's get started with the creatures. Crystal Barricade, one of the newer walls printed. 2 mana for a 0/4 defender creature, and as long as it is on the battlefield, we as a player have hexproof. This is really good. You'd actually be surprised how many spells and abilities actually target players in Commander. Crystal Barricade also prevents all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures we control. Meaning, if you control this and someone plays a damage-based Boardwipe like Blasphemous Act, your creatures will still be alive. Only the Crystal Barricade will take the hit. Next up we have Crashing Drawbridge. For 2 colorless mana, we get a 0/4 defender creature. We can tap it and give all our creatures haste until the end of turn. Just dropping this early on in the game will mean that you can activate it later. When you just drop a wall, you will be instantly able to swing with it. Or just activate Felothar instantly. Blightpile, a 2 mana 3/3 defender creature with an awesome ability for this deck. For 3 mana and tapping it, we can make each opponent lose life equal to the amount of defender creatures we control. If you can just get a couple of activations with this dude and a couple of walls on the field, opponents will be at a really low life total. McCready, Lamplight Mayor, one of the only non-defender creatures in the deck, but it's way too good not to include. It's actually one of the cards that can win us the game by making all our walls unblockable. Whenever one of our creatures with power 2 or less attacks, it gains the Skulk mechanic. The Skulk mechanic basically says this creature cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. Since most of the creatures in our deck have 0 power, this means they will just be unblockable. Yeah, you will lethal opponents with 0/4 walls. He also has a passive ability. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater attacks you will gain 2 life and the opponent attacking will lose 2 life. It's a small passive ability. It might do some damage, gain you some life, but it's not the reason why we play it. We mainly play it to give all our creatures Skulk. Stalwart Shieldbearers. It's a 0/3 defender creature. As long as it is on the battlefield, it gives all our other creatures who have defender plus 0/2. Boosting the toughness of all our other defender creatures by 2 is actually really relevant, since they just grow bigger and we can block extra damage, and they will also deal 2 extra damage while Felothar is on the battlefield. Classic card, Sylvan Caryatid. It's a 2 mana 0/3 defender with hexproof, so pretty hard to deal with, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, accelerating our mana. Overgrown Battlement, one of the best defender creatures in the deck. 2 mana 0/4 defender creature. When we tap it, we add 1 green mana to our mana pool for each defender creature we control. So baseline, it will always add 1. If you just have 3 walls, this 2-drop will tap for 3 mana. Insane card in this deck. It's an auto include. You must play this. Vine Trellis, 2 mana for a wall that taps for mana. Solid. Wall of Blossoms, pretty straightforward. 2 mana, 0/4. When it enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Same card, but in white, Wall of Omens. Also, when it enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Wall of Roots, one of the more unique walls. It's a 2 mana 0/5 wall, which is a pretty good stat line, and it has the ability that we can put a -0, -1 counter on it to add 1 green mana to our mana pool. We can only use this once per turn. It's a fantastic wall. We can get 5 uses out of this, and it will grant you a ton of mana throughout the game. Also, starting at 5 toughness is really good. X-Bane Guardian, 3 mana for a 0/3 defender creature. We can tap it and we add mana of any color in any combination to our mana pool equal to the creatures with defender we control. As you can imagine, in this deck we will have a ton of defender creatures around at all times, so usually this guy taps for 3, 4, 5 mana. Absolutely crazy card. It's a must play. Basilica Guards, a defender creature with Extort, one of the strongest mechanics ever printed for Commander. Whenever we cast a spell, we get to pay 1 black or 1 white mana, and every opponent will lose 1 life and we will gain that much life. So basically, whenever you cast a spell, the entire table takes 1 damage and you gain 3 life. As a defender deck, we're aiming to stay in the game for a long time, and this dude will generate a ton of value over the course of the game. Trust me. Wall of Omens, but for 1 mana more, Sylvan Caryatid. 2/5 defender body. When it enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Not a defender creature, but still really solid in this deck. Catapult Fodder. It has a 1/5 body, and at the start of combat on our turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with power lower than their toughness, it flips into the backside. It also counts itself, so you just need 2 other creatures with lower power than toughness. The back of this card is Catapult Captain. 2/6 body. Pretty good with Felothar. For 3 mana and tapping it, we are allowed to sacrifice a creature and target opponent loses life equal to its toughness. We will always have a ton of toughness on board, and we can just start tossing creatures we don't need anymore in our opponent's face, whittling their life total down. In some games, this card is a real win con. Yeah, Doran, you knew he was gonna be here. Honestly, it's just a weaker version of Felothar, but still good enough to play in the 99. He has a 0/5 body, which is a pretty good stat line for this deck, and he also has the ability that our creatures will assign damage with their toughness rather than their power. If we can get Felothar on the board for any reason, Doran will do the job just fine and make our walls actually deal damage. A Jellyfish, Glunch the Bestower. It's a 0/5 creature with flying and a pretty fun ability. At the beginning of our end step, we get to choose a player. They get to put 2 +1/1 counters on a creature they control. Since we play walls, we usually don't care about our creatures growing in power since we will be able to block them anyways. Then we choose a second player. That player gets to draw a card. Then we pick a third player, and that player creates 2 treasure tokens. So how this works in an actual game is as follows. You just pick a random opponent without creatures or with weak creatures. They get the counters. You take the card or the treasures yourself. Usually you will be granting an opponent a card and taking the 2 treasure tokens for yourself. If you're able to play this on turn 3, this means you will have 2 treasure tokens ready to go at the start of turn 4, which is an insane acceleration. Besides, it's a really cool card. It's really fun to play with your friends. Just try it out. Runic Armasaur. Most people don't understand how good this card really is. So for 3 mana, we get a 2/5 body. Really fantastic stat line. And whenever an opponent uses an activated ability of a creature or a land that is not a mana ability, we get to draw a card. You'd be surprised how many activated abilities on lands and creatures get activated in a game of Magic. This dude will generate a ton of value. It's insane. Most games, when this resolves, by the time it's your turn, you actually drew 4 cards of them or something. It's crazy. Try it out. Arbor Adherent, one of the new Darkir cards. For 4 mana, we get a dude we can tap for mana of any color. We can also tap him to add mana of any color to our mana pool, equal to the highest toughness of other creatures we control. This dude generates insane amounts of mana. For example, if we just have Felothar on the field who has 5 toughness, we tap him, this dude generates 5 mana. Crazy. If we have bigger creatures around, he generates even more. It's a really fun card. Felothar is a really mana hungry deck, and we will always be able to use the mana. Since Felothar's ability ensures we always have a hand filled with cards, we will will always be able to spend this amount of mana. Bedrock Tortoise, 0/6 body. As long as it is our turn, our creatures have hexproof, preventing opponents from interacting with them, which in most cases is really relevant. He also has the same ability as Felothar and Doran. Our creatures assign damage through their toughness instead of their power. Very solid card. Marble Titan. Your friends really won't like you playing this card. It's a 4 mana 3/3 and it says creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during untap steps. Our creatures will not be affected since they usually have 2 power maximum anyways, and all other creatures just don't untap anymore. It's an insane stacks card in a defender deck. Also included in the new Tarkir Abzan precon is Rampart Architect. It's a 3/4 elephant creature. Whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, we get a 1/3 defender token. Pretty solid. Comes in with a wall, can generate walls. But the second ability is what it's all about. Whenever a creature with defender we control dies, we're able to search our library for a basic land and put it into play tapped. The value on this is crazy. Since Felothar sacrifices defender creatures, every time we use his ability, we're actually allowed to search for a basic land and put it into play. It's crazy. Imagine having 5 walls on the battlefield, someone plays a board wipe, we're allowed to search for 5 basic lands and put them into play tapped. As mentioned before, Felothar is really mana hungry and we can use every single land we can get. A tutor on a defender body, Shield Wall Sentinel. It's a 1/3 body. When we play him, we get to search our library for a creature with defender and put it into our hand. Pretty unique tutor for a defender deck. Obviously, we play the 2 biggest defender creatures there are. Tree of Perdition, a 0/13 body for 4 mana, which is absolutely insane. If we sacrifice this to Felothar, we draw 13 cards and it swings for 13 damage. We can also tap it and exchange an opponent's life total with the toughness of this creature. Might be relevant in some cases. If someone is still at 40 life, you can just swap it and they go to 13 life. And the green counterpart, of course, Tree of Redemption. Again, 4 mana, 0/13 body, insane. We can tap it and exchange our life total with the toughness of this creature. We have some ways to boost the toughness in this deck. Might be relevant in some cases, but we mainly play it because it's 4 mana for a 13/13 body. Wingmantle Chaplain. Before making this deck, I didn't even know this card existed. It's a 0/3 defender creature. Whenever it enters the battlefield, we get 1/1 bird tokens with flying equal to the amount of creatures with defender we control. So when you just play it, have no other creatures, you will still get a 1/1 bird. As long as it is on the battlefield and we play a creature with defender, we will also generate a 1/1 flying bird token. Pretty cool card, generates us some tokens whenever we play defenders, and yeah, most of the creatures in this deck are actually defenders. So we will get a swarm of birds you can do something with. Beter, Kin to All, another new Tarkir dragon that's all about big toughness. It's a 5 mana, 5/7 flying body, which is already really good. And at the end of your end step, he checks the total toughness of creatures you control. If the total toughness of creatures you control is 10, you get to draw a card on your end step. If it is 20, you also get to untap every creature you control. Fantastic to untap Felothar and get another activation. If you have a total toughness of 40, each opponent will lose half their life total rounded up. Yeah, what to say about this guy is absolutely fantastic. If you only have 3 extra toughness besides him, he already draws you a card, which is good. Untapping Felothar again with the second part of the ability is also fantastic. Yeah, and the third ability is just insane. You can put opponents to a really low life total, easily taking them out by swinging with your walls. You basically get rewarded for playing high toughness creatures, which is what you will do anyways in this deck. If you really like Beter, you could also switch him with Felothar, actually play Beter as a commander instead of Felothar. In my opinion, Felothar is way better than Beter in this deck. But yeah, if you like dragons, go for it. Really popular creature in green commander decks is Orhan Frostfang. 2/6 body is really good in this deck. Attacking creatures we control have Death Touch. We don't really care about the Death Touch really, but people don't want to block your creatures when they have Death Touch. Interacting with the second ability, which is the reason why we play it. Whenever a creature we control deals damage to an opponent, we get to draw a card. If you're able to resolve a ton of walls early on in the game and just drop this, swing with them, sometimes you draw 2, 3, 4 cards of them. It's a perfect way to refill your hand. And if opponents have a low life total, they will have to block your walls, which will have Death Touch. Sapling of Kolfonor, a really unique card made for defender decks. For 5 mana, we get a 2/5 indestructible body. Whenever it attacks, we get to flip the top card of our deck. If it is a creature card, we get to put it into our hand. We lose life equal to the power of the creature, and we gain life equal to the toughness of the creature. Every creature in this deck has higher toughness than the power, so we will always gain life, netting us with small life gain and card advantage. Pretty cool card. Silk Lash Spider, a classic card. Most people don't like it. I really love it. I know how strong it can be. It has an immense 7 toughness and reach. This thing actually swings for 7 damage with Felothar on the field. I just love the ability on Silk Lash Spider. 2 green and X. When you activate it, it deals damage equal to the mana you paid for X to each creature with flying. Usually just paying 1 or 2 for the ability wipes all flyers on the board. Nowadays in Magic there are a ton of decks that really rely on small flying creatures. Silk Lash Spider is the answer. Baldin has the ability that creatures assign damage with their toughness instead of power during our turn. Another option for when we can't get Felothar on the field for some reason. Whenever he attacks, he and up to 100 creatures get plus 0x. X being the number of cards in our hand. In this deck, I doubt you will ever have more than 100 creatures, so he basically says all your creatures, but it's just an awesome effect. If the creatures have Skulk or are unblockable and they just get a 5 toughness boost, the damage stun will be insane. Our hand will always be filled thanks to Felothar's ability, so this card is just a game finisher. A 0/7 body is also really good for this deck. Last creature in the deck is Felothar the Last Jew. A 3/7 vigilance reach body, and he has a fantastic ability. Whenever Felothar or another creature we control dies, we get to return a creature from our graveyard with lesser toughness to our hand. If we sacrifice a wall with Felothar's ability, we're just able to recur another wall from our graveyard to our hand, just keeping the cycle going. The fact that he also triggers when he himself dies is really awesome. He will always generate value. Before we move on, if you really enjoyed these deck tech videos and want to support the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below. You can get cool benefits like voting on the commander I will next do a deck tech about, suggesting commanders to do a deck tech about, and having your name mentioned in the credits of the video. Also check out the Panzer MTG Discord server. We talk about deck building, financial talk about Magic, we talk about cool combos, everything Magic related, so make sure to check that out. Let's dive into the unique Boardwipes we play in this deck. A really old card, Retribution of the Meek. For only 3 mana, we get to destroy every creature with power 4 or greater. As you just saw in the creature section, all our creatures are below 3 power. This makes this card into a 3 mana one-sided board wipe. Insane value. Auto include Slaughter the Strong. For just 3 mana, any player gets to pick any number of creatures they control with power 4 or less, then they have to sacrifice the rest. This bypasses indestructibility effects since they have to sacrifice them. A one-sided board wipe since our creatures will always be lower than 4 power. The Battle for Bywater, once again, one-sided board wipe. For 3 mana, we get to destroy every creature with power 3 or greater, which is most creatures, except for our defender creatures. Small little benefit, after we cast it, we also get to create a food token for every creature we control, which might be relevant if you do need some life. A wipe that's just too good not to play, Toxic Deluge. 3 mana, we have to pay X life. Every creature gets -X equal to the amount of life we paid. It's just 3 mana, you can pay 1 life, you can pay 10 life, depending on the board state and what kind of a board wipe you need. It's just one of the best wipes ever printed in my opinion. If for example you pay 3 as a life total, giving everything -3/-3, you still will be able to swing with your creatures and deal damage, since you just cleared the board and their toughness is not 0, so they still do damage with Felothar on the field. Expel the Interlopers. For 5 mana, we get to pick a number between 0 and 10. Then we destroy every creature with power equal or higher than the number we just picked. Sometimes you can just name 1 as a number and you will still have a ton of defenders lying around and every other creature will be wiped. Really good card. Yeah, there have been a ton of power-based wipes. Fel the Mighty. We get to select a creature and every other creature with higher power will be destroyed. With Felothar on the field, we can just target Felothar. Every creature with power 0 or higher will be destroyed, still leaving us with our commander and some walls on the field in most cases. Man, the one-sided wipes in this deck just don't stop. You can just keep wiping the board over and over again and your creatures will not be affected. It's insane. Another old card, Wave of Reckoning. Every creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. Our creatures will not destroy themselves by doing this and most other creatures will. Last wipe in the deck with a bonus benefit is Dusk and Dawn. Dusk is 4 mana and just destroys all creatures with power 3 or greater. Fantastic. The other side, Dawn, has the aftermath mechanic, meaning we can only cast it from our graveyard. When we do, we get to return all creatures with power 2 or less from our graveyard to our hand, which is basically all the creatures in our graveyard to our hand. The recursion value on this is insane. If you go longer in games and you have a ton of creatures in the graveyard or have them there by discarding them with Felothar, you can just start a cycle all over again, returning everything to your hand and just play them over again. It's probably the best wipe card in the deck. This card just seems made for this deck. As mentioned before, Felothar is really mana hungry and we play 5 mana rocks in this deck. Solging, Arcane Signet, and 3 of the talismans in our colors. Next up are the support cards. These are cards that functioned fantastically in the deck but didn't fit into any other category. We'll start off with the strongest card in the support section, Meekstone. This 1 mana artifact makes sure no creature with power 3 or greater untaps during untap steps. As you've seen, we don't really care about this negative effect since every creature in our deck is below 3 power. And for opponents, this is an absolute nightmare. Almost none of their creatures will untap. Most creatures have 3 power or greater. It's a fantastic card. You must include this in a defender deck. Assault formation, I like to refer to it as Felothar on a stick. Has a passive ability, makes our creatures deal damage with their toughness instead of their power. For 1 mana, we can make target creature with defender attack as though it didn't have defender. Felothar also has these 2 abilities, but we do need some backup in case we can't get him on the field. For 3 mana, we can pump our creatures and give all creatures we control +0/+1. Which might be relevant in some cases or if you just have a ton of mana laying around in the late game. Pretty solid card. One of my personal favorite cards ever printed, Blind Obedience. This 2 mana enchantment has Extort, so whenever we cast a spell, we get to pay a white or a black mana. Every opponent loses 1 life, we gain 3 life. As mentioned before, Extort is really strong in multiplayer and we're gonna be in the game for a long time anyway, so this card will generate a ton of value. On top of that, as long as this is on the battlefield, all artifacts and creatures your opponent controls will enter tapped, which will really slow down the game for them, which is fantastic for us. I decided to include 1 combat trick since the value is just too good not to play. Tower defense. For 2 mana, all our creatures get +0/5. Yeah, it's insane. It doesn't give +5 toughness, but also +5 power with Felothar on the field. The value is crazy. If you just declare blockers with 3 walls, people decide not to block it or they can block it because they got unblockable from one of our effects. With 3 creatures, this will grant +15 damage. This card will really surprise opponents for just 2 mana. Insane. Behind the scenes, an enchantment that gives all our creatures Skulk. I talked about the Skulk mechanic earlier. It basically says creatures with Skulk can be blocked by creatures with a greater power. Since all our creatures have such a low power, they're basically unblockable. They can only be blocked by other mana dorks or tokens or walls or whatever, but in most cases they will just be unblockable. For 5 mana, we can also give our creatures +1/1 until the end of turn. How you actually use this ability is as follows. You declare attackers. People cannot declare blockers because we have Skulk. You go to the damage step and then you can put 5 mana into it and boost the creature's toughness and power. Because if you activate it and blockers can still be declared, the power will go up and the Skulk will not be as relevant anymore. Really solid card in this deck, actually one of the win cons. For Action Arena, classic card, 3 mana enchantment, every upkeep you lose 1 life and draw a card. It's just really solid card advantage. Another sort of combat trick we play is Stone Skin. It's a 3 mana enchantment with flash, meaning we can play it on instant speed whenever we want, and it will grant a creature +0/10. Yeah, you heard that right, 10 bonus toughness. We can use this during combat when opponents least expect it. Just keep 3 mana open, swing with something, flash this in and you will deal 10 damage more. Or if you want to set up a sacrifice with Felothar, this will draw you 10 extra cards. You heard that right, 10 extra cards. It's really good value. We also play 2 Theo Planeswalkers. Theo, Geometric Tactician. Whenever he enters, we get to create a 0/4 wall with flying, providing a perfect body to protect himself. His +1 allows both an opponent and us to draw a card. It's a pretty solid ability if you just need the card advantage. The -2 is pretty unique. We get to choose left or right. Until our next turn, opponents can only attack to the direction we chose. So basically 2 players will not be able to attack you for the next turn. Only one guy sitting left or right next to you. You can choose whichever you want. Pretty cool and unique card, and also really solid in this deck. We also play the other Theo, obviously. It's a 3 mana walker, so comes down really early. The minus ability just gives us a 0/3 defender creature. Entering with a defender creature is perfect to protect himself, and he has a really good passive ability. It's the same as the first card we mentioned, Crystal Barricade. We, as a player, have Hexproof. Just play this guy and trust me, your opponents will always forget you have Hexproof and try to target you with things. There are a ton of things in Magic that target a player, so this effect is really, really relevant. Depth to the Depthless. It's an alternative win con for the deck. It's a classic problem in these colors that you just don't have a win con. Obviously, we can make big walls, make them unblockable, swing with them, drain our opponents, but this deck just needs like a little oomph. Since Felothar is able to draw us a ton of cards, we will easily be able to just draw half of our library and hopefully get this. The trick with this is just cast this for like, I don't know, 12 mana. Every opponent will lose 16 life then, and we will gain that much life. Only purpose of this card is just closing out games. And it's pretty good at that. Rammas Ekar, Ancient Shields. Really weird name on this one. It's a legendary artifact. Whenever we cast our second spell each turn, we get to create a 0/3 defender creature and we get to draw a card. In most of our turns, we will be casting more than 2 spells, so this will generate a ton of card advantage and defender tokens. At the beginning of combat on our turn, all our creatures with defender will get exalted, meaning whenever a creature we control attacks alone, it will get +1/1 for every exalted creature we have. Just imagine swinging with one creature, having 5 defenders and this on the board, the creature will get +5/5 while swinging. We mainly play it for the first ability, just generating a ton of defender tokens and a ton of card draw, but it's a nice added benefit in some cases, I suppose. And the last support card we play is Eerie Ultimatum. Like I mentioned before, this deck needs like some oomph to win games with, and this card is just perfect. For 7 mana, we get to return any number of permanents from our graveyard to the battlefield. Any number. So later on in the game, if a ton of creatures died, you had a lot of interactions with opponents, it's like turn 10, turn 11, casting Eerie Ultimatum will just win you the game. That's just the way it works. Before we get into the 2 last categories of this deck, don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you actually get notified when I upload new deck decks. I'd also love to hear from you. If there are any cards that you think would be awesome in a Felothar Defender deck, leave it in the comments below. Are there any combos I forgot? Any cards I forgot in this deck? What would you include in the deck? Leave it in the comments below. Most important section of any deck, the interaction spells. As in any deck that I make that plays white, I will always include these 2 cards. Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. 1 mana, exiles a creature, fantastic. There's nothing more efficient than these 2 cards. Play your interaction. For just 2 mana, we have Assassin's Trophy. It's a fantastic card, destroys target permanent, so you can even deal with lands. When you do, the opponent cancels their library for a basic land, put it into play, but in most cases, just destroying a key permanent is way more relevant than them getting a basic. Collective Resistance acts both as an interaction and a protection spell. For 2 mana, we get to choose one of the modes. We can also escalate it. By paying 1 green mana more per mode, we can choose an additional one. We get to destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or give a creature hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. All of these options are fantastic, especially if you escalate them. In total of 4 mana and get to pick all of these options. Another fantastic Orzhov card, D-Spark. For 2 mana, we get to exile a permanent with mana cost 4 or greater. Especially good if you face people playing some of the Tagos gods who have indestructible, you can just exile them this way. Fantastic card. Feed the Swarm, another awesome interaction spell. For 2 mana, we get to destroy a creature or an enchantment an opponent controls, then we lose life equal to the mana cost of the destroyed permanent. Life is a resource anyways, people. Use it. I can't stress this enough. All of the Ravnica charms are really strong, especially Golgari Charm. 2 mana, instant speed, and we can pick 1 of 3 options, and all of them are fantastic. We can give all creatures -1/-1, dealing with token players who have a ton of 1/1 tokens. We can deal with Skewed Swarm. We can destroy all mana dorks. Fantastic option on this card. We can also use it to Regenerate all our creatures. If someone plays a board wipe, we can just Golgari Charm. All our creatures will get tapped and survive the board wipe. Or we can destroy target enchantment. Also fantastic option when needed. Tear Asunder. For 2 mana, we get to exile an artifact or enchantment card. Already really solid. We can also kick it for 1 generic and 1 black mana. If we do, we just get to exile a non-land permanent instead. Anguish the Making. 3 mana, 3 life, and we get to exile a non-land permanent. Deals with almost everything. Last category, the mana base. As mentioned before, this is a budget deck, so we're kinda limited in the kind of lands we can play, but we made the most out of it. I'll start off with the utility lands, the lands that actually do something. Bojuka Bog, every deck needs Graveyard Hate. Simple land, enters tapped, generates a black mana. Whenever it enters, we get to exile target's player's graveyard. In Modern Magic, a ton of decks utilize their graveyard. Reanimation decks, Spellslinger decks. Just exiling someone's graveyard might shut down their entire deck. Forbidding Watchtower. It's a white land that enters tapped. For 2 mana, we can activate it and turn it into a 1/5 creature. This is fantastic if you just need some extra walls to swing with. Remember, this will swing for 5 power. Or, with Felothar's ability, this will draw you 4 cards. Vault of the Archangel, one of the classic Orzhov utility lands. Taps for a colorless. Whenever we put 4 mana into it, all our creatures get Death Touch and lifelink until the end of turn, turning combat into an absolute nightmare for opponents. As you've seen, our walls always have a high power, so lifelink is really relevant in this deck. We can actually lifelink more than 30 in a turn if we really want to, and the Death Touch just makes combat way harder for your opponents. We also play one of the MDFC lands, Revitalizing Repast. For 1 hybrid mana, we can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and the reason why we play it, it gets indestructible until the end of turn. Perfect if you just decided to play Felothar, someone tries to remove it, or someone plays a wipe, you can just cast this card, gets indestructible. Backside is just a dual land that enters tapped, that taps for black or green. For basic lands, we play Deceptive Landscape, taps for colorless, or we can sacrifice it to get one of our 3 basic lands into play tapped. Perfect to filter through your deck. For 3 mana, we can also cycle it. Later on in the game, if we don't need it, we can just discard it and draw a card. Obviously, we play a command tower. 3 of the Scry Temples, the lands that enter tapped and allow you to scry 1 when they enter. 3 check lands, the lands that enter tapped unless you control 1 of 2 basic land types. 3 of the Pain lands, lands that tap for colorless or for 1 of 2 colors if you decide to pay 1 life for it. 1 Exotic Orchard, granting us mana of a land our opponents can produce, really efficient in a 3-color deck. We play 1 Filter land, you put 1 mana into this and get back any combination of those 2 colors. And for basics, we play 8 forests, 5 plains, and 3 swamps. And that's it for my Felothar Defender budget deck. It's a really unique and fun deck to play with your friends. They probably have never lost to a Defender deck or just played one in general. So I really just recommend giving this a go. You will have a ton of fun. If there are any cards I forgot about, leave them in the comments below. Share this video with your entire family. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. If there are any commander creatures you'd love me to do an in-depth deck tech about, leave it in the comments below. And I'll add it to the growing list of commanders I will do a deck tech about. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.